4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are how many teenagers, young adults have an STD. 1 out of 4. That's high. Nobody's rapping about that.
That's right.
The rapping and the music is encouraging you to do that.
Yeah.
But they're not showing you the consequences of it. And I want to know let me just tell you, if you want to know the sound of war over a generation, listen to today's music. Because when Moses went up on the mountaintop to hear from God, and the children of Israel who had just came out of Egypt were in the camp, and they began to get antsy, and they began to get worried because Moses was taking so long in the presence of God, and they started worshiping idols. In other words, they took the very gold that God had given them to take out of Egypt. You know, they didn't come out of Egypt all poor and all broke like we do when we get saved. You know, we get saved, we just poor and broke and just trying to pay the rent. Telephone disconnect, all your money spent, baby need a pair of shoes, even got a light bill too. Even got a gas bill too. Tell you what you ought to do. Jesus will see you through. That's we got saved to get our bills paid.
Amen. Amen.
Not understanding that our ultimate destiny was not just to get our bills paid, but to be able to pay other people's bills. So, sexually transmitted disease is something that affects your physical body. Now, I'm not going to get real graphic, but some of the diseases that people get require you to have certain things burned off of your body with a laser. Very painful. Nobody talks about that. I don't know why they don't talk about it. But 1 out of 4. There's an epidemic. There is a war going on. So when Joshua heard the sound, as he was waiting on Moses is in the presence of God. Joshua was hearing the sound in the camp of the people worshiping idols. He listened to their music. And he heard the sound. And Joshua said, "This sounds like war." And Moses said, wait. No, it sounds like singing. In other words, it was music, but it was idolatrous. Now, Joshua heard war, but Moses heard singing, because listen to this. In Moses' generation, there were only 2 kinds of sounds. There was the sound of a people afflicted. It was a sound of the people that were in physical bondage, that were crying out to God for deliverance. That was a sound of sorrow. So Moses was familiar with the sound, I feel the anointing here, of sadness. Of people that were just, building, making bricks for Pharaoh, they were slaves. And they were just crying out for God to deliver them one day. Moses said, it's not that sound. Why? Because they had just got delivered from Egypt. Moses said, let me see, what kind of sound is it? It sounds like singing, but it's not the same song that Miriam sung after the Red Sea was opened up. Because that was a song of victory. So it said it isn't a sound of slavery, and it isn't a sound of victory. What kind of sound is it? And what's distinct about this sound is the first time that the children of Israel were not forced into bondage. They had no choice in the matter. They had to be a slave for Pharaoh. So for the first time, they weren't forced into bondage. But when Moses uses the word singing, he uses the same word for affliction. Because now the bondage wasn't forced upon them. They were enticed into it. In other words, they were thinking, y'all got to hear this tonight, that this would be good for them. That's why young ladies are being enticed by young men and by the music. And young men are being enticed by young ladies. Beyonce. She has a video out where she's having sex in the back of a limo. And you know how many girls, young ladies, all over the world look up to her and worship her. And if Beyonce does it, they want to do it. How many know every time Beyonce gets on stage, she is almost naked? Why? Because y'all got to hear this. That's the same sound of the singing that Moses heard in the camp. It is a singing that is bondage, but the people don't know it's bondage. It's slavery to idols, because the people had lost their way. They had lost their identity. They had forgot God's power. They had forgot how mighty the deliverance was, and they got stuck where they were, and they thought this is all there is to it. And we got to watch it with a generation, because if all we tell you is being saved and loving Jesus is a ticket to heaven one day when you die,
then
we're going to lose you. We cannot, gotta preach like I feel tonight. We cannot. I feel a real anointing for crossover tonight. Somebody say, I'm crossing over tonight.
I'm crossing over
The
tonight.
anointing on me tonight is to make sure that a generation is not left in the wilderness. I feel God taking us from that in-between place.